Tyler Brooks physically blocked the VIP cabana entrance as Dr. Amara Washington approached. His eyes raked over her designer sundress with open contempt. "Ma'am, the staff entrance is around the back." He pointed toward the service corridor like she was invisible. "This area is for actual resort guests." Amara's husband, Julian, stepped forward. "Excuse me?" Tyler's voice grew louder, drawing stares from wealthy guests lounging nearby. "Look, I don't know how you got past security, but this is a private resort. The public beach is 2 miles down the road." He deliberately positioned himself between the couple and the luxury cabanas, arms crossed in theatrical authority. Several guests pulled out their phones. Amara produced her platinum membership card with steady hands. "We have reservations." Tyler snorted, not even looking. "Right. And I'm the resort owner." His cruel laugh echoed across the pool deck. "Have you ever been humiliated at your own property?" 2:35 p.m. 45 minutes until resort general manager's daily rounds. Tyler's voice carried across the pool deck like a megaphone. "Security! We've got gate crashers in the VIP section!" Influencer Zoe Kim looked up from her Instagram live stream. She'd been filming a luxury resort tour for her 50,000 followers when the commotion started. Now 234 viewers watched the confrontation unfold in real time. "Oh my God, you guys," Zoe whispered to her phone. "There's some serious drama happening at Azure Bay right now." Tyler puffed his chest, enjoying his audience. "Look, I've worked poolside here for 2 years. Real VIP guests don't show up looking like—" He paused dramatically, letting his eyes travel over Amara's attire with exaggerated disgust. "Like they're here for job interviews." Julian wore luxury swim shorts and a linen shirt. Amara's sundress bore the subtle logo of a designer boutique. But Tyler's performance wasn't about their clothes. Mrs. Adelaide Crawford, a regular guest from Beverly Hills, shifted uncomfortably on her chaise lounge. She'd recognized the couple from somewhere, but couldn't place them. Amara's beach bag sat partially open, revealing glimpses of documents that would change everything. A medical conference VIP badge reading, "Keynote Speaker, International Cardiology Summit," caught the afternoon light. Julian's business cards remained hidden beneath a helicopter landing pad reservation slip. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to gather your things," Tyler continued, his voice dripping with false politeness. "Resort policy clearly states that non-guests cannot access premium amenities." He pulled out his radio with theatrical flair. "Yeah, it's Tyler at the Infinity Pool. Need management down here ASAP. We've got potential trespassers attempting to access VIP cabanas." The word trespassers hung in the air like poison. Zoe's live stream exploded with comments. "This is so racist." "Call them trespassers? Really? Tyler's about to get fired." "Those people look expensive." Julian's hands clenched into fists. His voice remained controlled despite the anger burning in his chest. "My wife just delivered the keynote address at the International Cardiology Summit yesterday, in this resort's grand ballroom." Tyler's laugh was sharp and mocking. "Sure she did. And I'm the Pope." A guest near the swim-up bar whispered to her companion, "Wait, isn't she the heart surgeon who was on the news? The one who saved that senator's life?" But Tyler was too drunk on his own authority to hear. He positioned himself like a bouncer, blocking their path to the cabanas with his entire body. "Resort policy is resort policy," he declared. "No exceptions for anyone trying to scam their way into VIP treatment." The crowd around the pool had grown. 18 guests now watched openly, phones recording every word. Some filmed with obvious disapproval of Tyler's behavior. Others seemed entertained by the spectacle. Security cameras positioned around the pool deck captured every angle. 8 different feeds recorded the discrimination unfolding in real time. Amara's professional composure never cracked. She'd faced worse in hospital boardrooms, in surgery theaters where seconds meant life or death. But this public humiliation at a place she should have felt welcome was cut differently. "Tyler," she said quietly, Perhaps you should verify our reservations with management before making accusations. Her calm dignity only seemed to infuriate him more. Lady, I don't need to verify anything. I can spot trouble when I see it. His voice grew louder with each word. We've had problems with people claiming they belong here when they don't. Just last week, someone tried to use fake credentials to access the spa. The racial undertones weren't subtle anymore. Julian stepped closer, his construction worker frame imposing despite his expensive vacation wear. Are you calling my wife a liar? Tyler's smirk widened. I'm calling it like I see it, sir. Mrs. Crawford finally spoke up from her lounger. Young man, I've seen them before. They were at the medical conference. Tyler barely glanced her way. Ma'am, with respect, guests can claim anything to help their friends. Zoe's viewer count climbed past 200. Comments flooded in faster than she could read them. Her followers began sharing the stream across TikTok and Twitter. This is insane, Zoe muttered to her camera. This guy is literally power-tripping on a black couple who probably has more money than all of us combined. Amara stepped aside and made a quiet phone call. Tyler watched suspiciously as she spoke in low tones to someone named Michael. Yes, Michael, it's Amara. We have a situation at the pool deck that requires your immediate attention. Tyler's confidence faltered slightly. Real troublemakers didn't usually call resort management on themselves, but his pride wouldn't let him back down now. Too many people were watching. Too many phones were recording. Admitting a mistake meant admitting he'd racially profiled resort guests. Ma'am, whoever you're calling won't change resort policy, he announced loudly. Security is already on the way. As if summoned by his words, Assistant Manager Rachel Martinez appeared, walking briskly across the pool deck. Tyler's chest swelled with vindication. Finally, backup had arrived. Timestamp, 2:42 p.m. The general manager's rounds were now 38 minutes away. 2:44 p.m. Assistant Manager Rachel Martinez arrives poolside. Rachel Martinez strode across the marble pool deck with authority, her resort blazer crisp despite the heat. Tyler's face lit up with vindication as she approached. What's the situation here? Rachel's tone was all business, but her eyes had already made assumptions. She positioned herself next to Tyler, creating a united front against the couple. Ma'am, these individuals are attempting to access VIP amenities without proper authorization, Tyler reported with military precision. They claim to have reservations, but I don't recognize them as registered guests. Rachel's gaze swept over Amara and Julian with practiced assessment. Resort management training had taught her to read guest profiles quickly. What she saw didn't match her expectations for VIP clientele. Sir, ma'am, we maintain strict security protocols here at Azure Bay, Rachel announced. Our VIP areas are exclusively for presidential suite guests and platinum members. No exceptions for anyone. The word anyone carried extra weight that wasn't lost on the growing crowd. Zoe's Instagram Live exploded with activity. Her viewer count hit 2,100 as followers shared the stream across platforms. Comments flooded in faster than she could read. Rachel just made it worse. This is going viral for all the wrong reasons. Azure Bay about to get canceled. Someone needs to stop this. Those people look like they have money. Julian's voice remained steady, but his jaw muscles worked overtime. We are presidential suite guests. We have complete documentation. Documentation can be forged, Rachel replied smoothly. We've seen increasingly sophisticated scams before. People Photoshop reservation confirmations, create fake membership cards, even counterfeit credit cards. She was doubling down on the criminal narrative. Mrs. Crawford sat up straighter on her lounger, her Beverly Hills socialite instincts kicking in. Excuse me, but I attended the medical conference yesterday. This woman delivered the keynote address on cardiac surgery innovations. Tyler waved dismissively at the elderly woman. Ma'am, people can claim anything to support their friends. We see it all the time. Rachel nodded approvingly. We appreciate guest input, but we can't base security decisions on casual observations. Our protocols exist to protect everyone." The insult was subtle but devastating. Mrs. Crawford's eyewitness testimony was being dismissed as casual observations, while Tyler's racial profiling was being validated as protocol. More guests gathered around the infinity pool's edge. The crowd had grown to 25 people, their conversations creating a buzz of anticipation. Some visitors looked genuinely uncomfortable with the spectacle unfolding. Others seemed entertained by the drama, treating it like poolside entertainment. 2:48 p.m. Resort security escalates involvement. Rachel pulled out her radio with theatrical authority. "Security to infinity pool. Code Yellow situation requiring immediate supervisor response." Code Yellow meant potential guest disturbance requiring documentation. The designation would go on Amara and Julian's permanent resort record, creating an official paper trail that painted them as troublemakers who required security intervention. "This is absolutely ridiculous," Julian finally snapped, his construction worker's instincts flaring. "We're calling our attorney right now. This is textbook discrimination at a public accommodation facility." Tyler's laugh was harsh and mocking. "Oh, everyone threatens lawyers these days. You think that legal talk scares us? We deal with scammers all the time." Rachel maintained her professional demeanor, but her support for Tyler was unwavering. "Sir, if you feel our established security protocols are somehow discriminatory, you're certainly welcome to file a formal complaint with resort management. However, our policies apply equally to all individuals attempting to access premium facilities." The gaslighting was masterful and institutional. She'd just reframed their legitimate discrimination complaint as an unreasonable grievance from people trying to access facilities they didn't deserve. Zoe zoomed her camera closer, capturing every micro-expression and word. Her followers were now cross-posting to TikTok with hashtags like #AzureBayDiscrimination and #ResortRacism spreading across social media platforms. "You guys, this is actually insane," Zoe whispered urgently to her phone. "They're literally treating these people like criminals, and I'm pretty sure they're loaded. Like, serious money. Look at her purse. That's a $15,000 Hermes bag." 2:51 p.m. Hidden power hints intensify. Amara's beach bag remained strategically partially open. The documents inside would vindicate them instantly, but she seemed deliberately hesitant to reveal her full hand. A strategic mind calculating the perfect moment. Julian noticed her restraint and followed her lead without question. Years of marriage had taught them to move as one unit, to trust each other's judgment completely. A guest near the swim-up bar leaned over to her companion. "I swear I've seen them somewhere important. Maybe in the society pages?" Another whispered back, "Didn't she win some medical award recently? I think I saw her on the news." But Tyler was too intoxicated by his newfound authority to pay attention to guest murmurs. He'd never commanded this much attention before. The pool attendant, who usually cleaned filters and adjusted umbrellas, was now the star of his own power fantasy. 2:53 p.m. Corporate involvement expands. "Look, people," Tyler addressed the growing crowd like a seasoned performer. "Resort security isn't personal business. We protect the exclusive experience our real guests pay premium prices to enjoy." Rachel nodded supportively, adding corporate backing to his discrimination. "Azure Bay maintains the absolute highest standards in luxury hospitality worldwide. Our comprehensive protocols ensure all legitimate guests enjoy exclusive amenities without any disruption whatsoever." The coded language was becoming increasingly explicit. Real guests versus implied fake ones. Legitimate versus illegitimate presence. Without disruption suggests Amara and Julian were inherently disruptive. Mrs. Crawford stood up from her lounger, her designer cover-up flowing dramatically. "This is absolutely disgusting behavior. These people are clearly legitimate resort guests." "Ma'am," Rachel replied with practiced corporate patience, "we sincerely appreciate your concern for fellow guests, but security decisions require proper verification through established administrative channels." Translation: Your opinion doesn't matter because you're not management. 2:55 p.m. Digital wildfire spreads across platforms. Zoe's livestream had morphed into an accidental social justice movement. Viewers were screenshotting key moments and creating memes in real time. The hashtag Azure Bay scandal started trending in Los Angeles County. One prophetic comment caught fire. Plot twist incoming. They probably own the whole damn resort. Others piled on with predictions. Tyler about to learn today, and this aged like milk in the sun, and someone's getting fired live on Instagram. The dramatic irony was completely lost on Tyler and Rachel, who remained laser-focused on their performance of institutional authority. 2:57 p.m. The tension reaches breaking point. Julian checked his expensive watch meaningfully. Amara, maybe it's time to end this charade. She gave him a subtle but decisive nod. The silent communication between them was almost telepathic, built from years of partnership. Amara stepped aside gracefully, making another quiet phone call. This time, Tyler strained obviously to overhear her conversation. Michael, yes, it's become urgent now. Pool deck situation. Immediate executive response required. Her tone carried unmistakable executive authority that made several nearby guests look up with sudden curiosity and recognition. Tyler's confidence wavered for the first time, but his pride had trapped him completely in the performance. Ma'am, whoever you're calling won't change our established security protocols. We've already followed proper procedures to the letter. Timestamp 2:59 p.m. General Manager's rounds in 21 minutes. The stage was perfectly set for total revelation. 3:01 p.m. The moment everything changes. Head of Security. James Walsh approached with visible nervousness, his radio crackling with urgent corporate chatter. Tyler straightened his shoulders, expecting vindication. Rachel adjusted her blazer, ready to explain their proper protocols to senior management. Neither of them noticed the subtle shift in Amara's posture, the quiet confidence of someone about to reveal a winning hand. James, Tyler called out with false bravado. Perfect timing. We've got trespassers here trying to scam VIP access with fake documentation. James Walsh had worked resort security for 15 years. He'd seen every type of guest complaint, every variety of entitled behavior. But something about this situation made his experienced instincts scream warnings. Tyler, before we proceed, James said carefully, perhaps we should verify guest information through proper channels. Already tried that, Rachel interjected. They refuse to provide adequate identification. Claims and fake cards aren't sufficient for VIP access. Zoe's livestream had exploded to 6,200 viewers. Comments flew past in a digital waterfall. This is about to be legendary. Tyler and Rachel have no idea what's coming. Someone's about to get owned. Plot twist incoming in 3, 2, 1. Mrs. Crawford rose from her lounger with aristocratic authority. This is absolutely shameful. These people are legitimate guests, and you're treating them like criminals. Ma'am, Tyler dismissed her again, drunk on his temporary power. We appreciate your input, but security decisions... Tyler, Amara's voice cut through his speech like a surgeon's scalpel. Quiet, controlled, absolutely commanding. The pool deck fell silent. Even children in the main pool seemed to sense the shift in energy. Before this situation escalates any further, Amara continued, her medical conference authority emerging, there's something very important you all need to understand. She reached into her designer beach bag with deliberate precision. Her movements were unhurried, confident, the movements of someone who held all the cards. Tyler scoffed nervously. Ma'am, whatever fake documents you're about to show us, these aren't fake. Amara's voice carried surgical precision as she produced a leather portfolio. These are ownership documents. She opened the portfolio with theatrical timing. Legal papers caught the Mediterranean sunlight. Official seals gleamed. Corporate letterhead bore the Azure Bay Resort logo. Tyler, Rachel, James, Amara said quietly, Meet the actual owners of Azure Bay Resort. 3:03 p.m. The freeze moment. The silence was deafening. Tyler's mouth fell open mid-sentence. His clipboard clattered to the marble deck like his entire world crashing down. Rachel's radio slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers. James Walsh went pale under his professional tan. "We don't just stay here," Julian added with quiet satisfaction, savoring each word. "We own this entire property, all 847 acres, every building, every employee contract, every single paycheck." He gestured toward the sprawling resort complex that stretched along the Malibu coastline. "Washington Hospitality Group acquired Azure Bay 3 years ago for $340 million. We kept the presidential suite as our private residence when we're on the West Coast." Tyler's legs seemed unsteady. The pool attendant, who'd been performing authority for 30 minutes, suddenly looked like he might collapse into the infinity pool. Rachel stared at the ownership documents like they were written in an alien language. Her corporate training had never prepared her for accidentally discriminating against the people who signed her paychecks. "No," Tyler whispered, his voice barely audible. "This can't be real." Zoe's camera captured every second of their shock. Her viewer count hit 8,900 as the live stream went viral across every platform. TikTok users were already creating reaction videos to the live footage. "Oh my God," Zoe whispered to her phone. "They own the resort. Tyler just tried to kick the owners out of their own property." Comments exploded like digital fireworks. "Tyler is so fired. This is the best plot twist ever." Rachel's face, though. Black excellence strikes again. Tyler really said, "I'm the resort owner," to the actual resort owners. "This is about to be a masterclass in consequences." Mrs. Crawford clapped her hands together with vindicated satisfaction. "I knew I recognized them. The Washington family was featured in Architectural Digest last year for their hospitality empire." 3:05 p.m. The documentation unfolds. Amara continued with clinical precision, laying out papers like evidence in a courtroom. Each document was another nail in Tyler's professional coffin. "Tyler, you've been employed here for exactly 2 years and 4 months. Your paychecks come directly from Washington Hospitality Group payroll. My signature personally authorizes your employment contract." She held up his original employment agreement. "Every 2 weeks, our accounting department processes your $2,847 salary payment. Your health insurance, paid by us. Your employee housing, subsidized by us." Tyler's face cycled through disbelief, horror, and dawning realization. He'd just racially profiled and publicly humiliated his ultimate boss, the owner of his paycheck, the person with power to fire him with a single phone call. "This has to be some kind of mistake," Rachel stammered, her corporate confidence evaporating like morning mist. "The management company handles all hiring decisions. We don't interface directly with ownership." Julian smiled without warmth. "Phoenix Management Company is our subsidiary corporation. They report to us monthly on every aspect of operations. David Carter, their president, is Rachel's brother-in-law, by the way." The connections were becoming clear like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The mysterious Michael that Amara had been calling? Michael Carter, general manager, David's eldest son. Rachel's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The caller ID read, Michael Carter, GM. Her hands shook visibly as she stared at the screen, knowing that answering would seal her fate. "You should probably answer that," Amara suggested with gentle authority. 3:07 p.m. "Corporate reality crashes down," Rachel answered with a trembling voice. "Mr. Carter?" Even from several feet away, Michael's urgent voice carried clearly across the pool deck. "Rachel, where are you right now? I need you at the pool deck immediately. We have a serious situation developing with the Washington family." "The Washington family?" Rachel's voice cracked like thin ice. "The resort owners, Rachel. Dr. Amara Washington and Julian Washington from Washington Hospitality Group. They called about discrimination from our staff members. Please tell me you haven't made this situation worse. The phone call was effectively on speaker now, broadcasting to the entire crowd of guests. Michael's voice carried genuine panic that made the corporate hierarchy crystal clear to everyone listening. Rachel's legs gave out completely. She sank onto a nearby poolside chair, the reality crushing her corporate composure like a hydraulic press. Tyler stood frozen like a statue, his racist performance from 30 minutes ago playing back in his memory like a nightmare. Every insult, every dismissive gesture, every moment of manufactured authority over people who literally owned the ground he stood on. "Mr. Carter," Rachel managed to whisper, "I think we may have a significant problem here." 3:09 p.m. The witness reactions explode. The crowd of resort guests erupted in shocked murmurs and barely contained excitement. Phones captured every angle of Tyler and Rachel's public humiliation. The discrimination that had been performed so publicly was now being answered with equally public revelation. "Can you believe this?" a guest whispered to her companion. "They literally own the entire place." "Tyler is so fired," another laughed with obvious satisfaction. "Like nuclear-level fire with no survivors." "I'm never staying anywhere else," Mrs. Crawford announced loudly for everyone to hear. Owners who handle discrimination personally instead of hiding behind lawyers? That's true leadership. A teenage TikToker who'd been recording started narrating for his followers. "Y'all, I just witnessed the most epic racist gets-owned moment in hospitality history. This guy Tyler is about to become a cautionary tale." Zoe's Instagram Live had become a genuine social media phenomenon. Her viewer count topped 12,000 as major influencers began sharing the stream. News outlets were picking up the story in real time, with CNN and TMZ both sending reporters. "Guys, this is literally the most insane thing I've ever witnessed," Zoe narrated breathlessly. "Tyler just learned that racism is extremely expensive when you mess with the wrong people." 3:11 p.m. The legal hammer falls. But Amara wasn't finished delivering the consequences. She reached deeper into her leather portfolio, producing additional documents that made Tyler's situation exponentially worse. "Tyler, there's one more thing you need to understand about your employment status," she said with surgical calm that made everyone lean in closer. She held up his original employment contract, marked with yellow highlighter. "Section 3.2 of your signed agreement specifically prohibits discriminatory behavior toward any guest, visitor, or individual, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, or perceived economic status." Her finger pointed to specific legal language that Tyler had probably never bothered reading when he signed. "Violation of this clause results in immediate termination for cause. No unemployment benefits, no positive references, no severance pay." Tyler's world was crumbling in real time, broadcast to thousands of viewers. Not only had he discriminated against the resort owners, he'd violated federal law and his employment contract simultaneously while being recorded from multiple angles. Julian added quietly, "Tyler, your actions today were recorded by resort security cameras, guest phones, and live-streamed to thousands of people across multiple platforms. This isn't a he said, she said situation. This is documented evidence." The legal implications were devastating and inescapable. Documentation existed. Witnesses had testified. Video evidence was already viral across social media platforms. Rachel tried desperately to salvage something from the corporate disaster. "Mr. and Mrs. Washington, I sincerely apologize for any misunderstanding. Perhaps we can discuss this privately and resolve it quietly." "There's no misunderstanding here," Amara replied with calm finality. "Discrimination isn't a communication error, Rachel. It's a deliberate choice with consequences." 3:13 p.m. The power dynamic completes its reversal. James Walsh, the head of security, finally found his voice after watching his colleagues destroy their careers in real time. "Mr. and Mrs. Washington, on behalf of Azure Bay Resort Management, I apologize profusely for this inexcusable treatment." His 15 years of experience told him to distance himself from Tyler and Rachel immediately. Self-preservation demanded choosing the right side of this corporate catastrophe. "Tyler, you're suspended immediately pending formal investigation," James announced with official authority. "Rachel, you'll report to corporate HR first thing Monday morning for disciplinary review." But Tyler's fate wasn't up to James anymore. Everyone on the pool deck understood the real hierarchy now. He looked directly at Amara with desperate, pleading eyes, realizing that his career, his livelihood, his future employment prospects were entirely in her hands. "Mrs. Washington," he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead despite the ocean breeze. I didn't know who you were. I made a terrible mistake." Amara studied him with the same clinical detachment she used to evaluate patients in cardiac distress, measuring vital signs, calculating damage, deciding whether the condition was reversible or terminal. "Tyler," she said quietly, her words carrying across the silent pool deck, 30 minutes ago, you didn't know I was the owner, but you knew I was a human being who deserved basic respect and dignity." The moral lesson landed like a physical blow to everyone listening. Julian checked his expensive watch meaningfully. Michael should be arriving any moment for those urgent discussions about implementing systemic changes to prevent future incidents. As if summoned by his words, a figure appeared at the far end of the pool deck. Michael Carter, general manager, walked quickly toward the crowd with obvious anxiety etched on his face. The man Tyler had dismissed as irrelevant. The woman he'd publicly humiliated. The couple he'd treated like criminals trying to steal luxury experiences. They owned everything he could see. Timestamp, 3:15 p.m. The reckoning was about to begin. 3:17 p.m. General Manager Michael Carter arrives. Michael Carter appeared like a man running toward a 5-alarm fire. His usually immaculate resort attire looked disheveled from rushing across the property. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the ocean breeze. "Mr. and Mrs. Washington," he called out breathlessly as he approached the crowd. "I came as soon as I received your call." His eyes swept the scene with practiced crisis management assessment. 30-plus guests with phones recording. Social media live streaming in progress. His assistant manager was sitting in a chair looking shell-shocked. His pool attendant froze like a deer in headlights. This was a corporate nightmare scenario. "Michael," Amara said with calm authority, "we need to discuss some serious policy failures that occurred here today." Tyler looked hopefully toward Michael, still clinging to some fantasy that corporate management would somehow save his career. Perhaps this was all a misunderstanding that could be quietly resolved. Michael's expression killed that hope instantly. "Tyler," Michael said with cold professionalism, "you're terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the property within the hour." The words hit like a physical blow. No discussion, no investigation, no appeals process. Rachel stood up shakily from her chair. "Mr. Carter, surely we can discuss—" "Rachel, you're suspended without pay pending full corporate review," Michael cut her off. "HR will contact you Monday regarding disciplinary proceedings." 3:19 p.m. The legal framework emerges. Julian stepped forward with the quiet confidence of someone who'd built a hospitality empire from scratch. "Michael, let's discuss the specific violations that occurred here." He pulled out his phone and opened a legal app with recorded audio timestamps. At 2:35 p.m., Tyler called my wife and me trespassers in front of guests. At 2:44 p.m., Rachel reinforced discriminatory treatment without investigation. Michael nodded grimly, taking notes on his tablet. "Sir, I understand the severity of these violations." "Do you?" Amara asked pointedly. "Because this isn't just about hurting feelings. This is about federal law violations and your employment practices." She produced additional documents from her portfolio. Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination in public accommodations. California's UNRRA Civil Rights Act provides even stronger protections. The legal citations carried weight that made everyone listening understand this wasn't going away quietly. "Tyler," Julian continued, "your actions today violated multiple federal statutes. The potential liability exposure for Azure Bay Resort is substantial. Michael's face paled as the corporate implications became clear. What kind of liability are we discussing? Discrimination lawsuits in hospitality typically settle for $75,000 to $200,000, Amara replied with clinical precision, plus legal fees averaging $150,000, plus reputation damage that's incalculable. She gestured toward Zoe's still streaming camera. This incident is already viral across multiple platforms. CNN and TMZ have contacted the resort for comment. 3:21 p.m. The financial hammer falls. Zoe's Instagram Live had exploded to 15,400 viewers. Comments were flying faster than anyone could read. Azure Bay, about to pay millions. Tyler just cost them everything. This is going to be a legal case study. Discrimination is expensive business. Tyler finally found his voice, desperation making him bold. This is insane! I was just doing my job! Security protocols exist for a reason! Julian's laugh was without humor. Security protocols don't include racial profiling, Tyler. I never mentioned race, Tyler protested weakly. You didn't have to, Amara replied. Calling us trespassers, directing us to staff entrances, questioning our documentation while accepting white guests without verification, that's textbook disparate treatment. Rachel tried one last corporate deflection. Our training emphasizes consistent application of policies. Your training failed, Michael interrupted sharply. And your implementation of those policies was discriminatory. Mrs. Crawford spoke up from her lounger with aristocratic authority. I've witnessed Tyler wave white guests into VIP areas without checking anything, but he demanded multiple forms of documentation from the Washingtons. The eyewitness testimony was devastating. Multiple guests nodded in agreement, their observations confirming the pattern of discriminatory enforcement. 3:23 p.m. Corporate accountability intensifies. Michael, Julian continued, let's discuss Azure Bay's employment practices. How was Tyler trained on anti-discrimination policies? Michael shifted uncomfortably. All employees receive standard orientation materials. Standard materials? Amara pressed. What specific bias training did Tyler complete? The silence was telling. Michael's discomfort suggested that anti-discrimination training was minimal or non-existent. How many discrimination complaints has Azure Bay received in the past 2 years? Julian asked with the precision of someone who already knew the answer. I would need to check our records, Michael stammered. We've already checked, Amara said quietly. 14 formal complaints, 7 involving guests of color, 0 resulting in employee discipline. The pattern of institutional indifference was becoming clear. This wasn't Tyler's first offense. It was just the first one caught on camera and live-streamed to thousands. Tyler's eyes darted between faces, looking for someone to defend him. The crowd of guests watched with fascination as his career disintegrated in real time. Mrs. Washington, Tyler pleaded desperately, I'll do anything to make this right. Sensitivity training, community service, whatever you want. Amara studied him with the same clinical assessment she used in surgery. Tyler, what exactly would you like to make right? Public humiliation? The assumption we were criminals? The racist stereotypes you projected onto us? 3:25 p.m. The ultimatum delivered. Julian stepped closer to Michael, his construction background evident in his physical presence. Here's what's going to happen, Michael. Azure Bay will implement comprehensive reforms, or Washington Hospitality Group will terminate our management contract. The financial threat was enormous. Azure Bay's management contract with Washington Hospitality Group was worth $340,000 annually. Losing it would devastate the resort's operations. What specific reforms are you requiring? Michael asked, pulling out his tablet to take notes. Complete overhaul of hiring practices, Amara began. Mandatory 60-hour diversity certification for all customer-facing employees. Monthly bias testing and performance reviews. Julian added, anonymous discrimination reporting system accessible through the resort app. Guest satisfaction scores that include inclusivity metrics. Quarterly reviews by an independent diversity consultant, Amara continued, with public reporting of progress and failures. The reforms weren't suggestions. They were ultimatums backed by ownership authority. Michael nodded rapidly, understanding that his own career depended on implementing these changes. When do you need the implementation plan? Monday morning, Julian replied. Full proposal with timelines, budgets, and accountability measures. 3:27 p.m. The consequences cascade. Tyler's phone buzzed with notifications. Friends were sending him links to the viral video. His girlfriend was calling. His mother had seen the TikTok compilations. The digital documentation of his discrimination was spreading across every social media platform. His name was becoming synonymous with racist behavior in hospitality. Tyler, Amara said with finality, your employment termination is immediate and for cause. No unemployment benefits, no positive references. Your discriminatory behavior will be documented in your employment record. She paused, letting the full weight of consequences settle. Every hotel, restaurant, and hospitality business in California will know what happened here today. Rachel looked equally devastated as the corporate implications hit her. Her suspension could easily become termination. Her management career was likely over. Rachel, Michael said grimly, you'll meet with corporate HR Monday at 9 a.m. Bring your documentation of this incident and prepare to explain your decisions. 3:29 p.m. Industry-wide implications. Zoe's live stream had become a phenomenon. Major news outlets were sharing clips. Hotel industry publications were already writing articles about discrimination in luxury hospitality. Guys, Zoe narrated to her 18,200 viewers, this is literally changing the conversation about racism in the service industry. Tyler and Rachel just became cautionary tales. The hashtag #AzureBayAccountability was trending nationally. Hospitality workers across the country were sharing their own discrimination stories. Mrs. Crawford stood up from her lounger with dramatic flair. Dr. Washington, Mr. Washington, I want you to know that your response to this discrimination gives me hope for real change. Other guests began applauding. The crowd that had witnessed Tyler's racist performance was now celebrating accountability and justice. Tyler stood alone, completely isolated. His racist assumptions had cost him everything: career, reputation, financial security, and future prospects. Michael, Julian said with quiet authority, ensure that Tyler's termination documentation includes specific details about discriminatory behavior. Future employers deserve to know. The long-term consequences were becoming clear. Tyler's discrimination would follow him for years. 3:31 p.m. The final corporate ultimatum. One more thing, Michael, Amara said with surgical precision. Washington Hospitality Group will be conducting unannounced audits of all Azure Bay operations. Any future discrimination incidents will result in immediate contract termination. The threat was crystal clear. The resort's entire management structure was now on probation. We expect full compliance with all federal and state anti-discrimination laws, Julian added. No exceptions, no excuses. Michael nodded with the understanding that his resort was now under microscopic scrutiny. Every interaction with guests of color would be evaluated for bias. Tyler gathered what remained of his dignity and walked toward the resort exit. His career in hospitality was over. His racist assumptions had destroyed his livelihood in 30 minutes. Timestamp, 3:33 p.m. The accountability phase was complete. 3:35 p.m. Immediate consequences unfold. Security guards appeared at the pool deck's edge, summoned by Michael's radio call. Their purpose was clear: escort Tyler from the property permanently. Tyler Brooks, the lead security officer announced formally. You have 30 minutes to collect personal belongings from employee housing. Your access cards are deactivated effective immediately. Tyler's humiliation was complete. The pool attendant who'd wielded fake authority 30 minutes ago was now being removed like a common criminal. The irony wasn't lost on anyone watching. Zoe's camera captured every moment of his walk of shame. Her viewers, now topping 21,000, watched in real time as consequences unfolded. "And that's how racism dies," Zoe narrated to her audience. "Not with violence or screaming, but with accountability and evidence." Mrs. Crawford approached Amara and Julian with genuine admiration. "Your response was masterful, dignified strength over anger. That's true leadership." Other guests nodded in agreement. The crowd that had witnessed discrimination was now witnessing justice. 3:38 p.m. Systemic reforms begin immediately. Michael pulled out his corporate tablet and began implementing changes in real time. "Dr. Washington, I'm immediately instituting emergency protocols while we develop comprehensive reforms." "What specific changes?" Julian asked, his construction project manager instincts demanding concrete details. "Effective immediately, all guest challenges require supervisor approval," Michael explained. "No staff member can question guest credentials without management oversight." Amara nodded approvingly. "What about documentation and reporting?" "Every discrimination complaint will be investigated within 24 hours by independent reviewers," Michael continued. "Results will be publicly posted on our resort website monthly." The transparency requirements were revolutionary for luxury hospitality. Most resorts buried discrimination complaints in the corporate bureaucracy. 3:40 p.m. Technology solutions implemented. "We're implementing facial recognition technology linked to our reservation system," Michael announced. "All registered guests will be automatically identified by security cameras." Julian smiled with approval. "So no more 'I don't recognize you' excuses from staff." "Exactly. Plus, we're launching an anonymous reporting app," Michael continued. "Guests can report bias incidents immediately with video evidence and timestamps." The technological solutions addressed systemic problems that had allowed Tyler's discrimination to flourish unchecked. 3:42 p.m. Training revolution begins. "All current employees will complete 60-hour diversity certification within 90 days, Michael read from his emergency reform notes. "Failure to complete training results in immediate termination." Amara added her medical expertise. "Training must include unconscious bias recognition, de-escalation techniques, and cultural competency." "We're partnering with the local NAACP chapter and Anti-Defamation League for curriculum development," Michael confirmed. The community partnerships ensured that training wouldn't be corporate whitewashing, but genuine education from affected communities. 3:44 p.m. Financial accountability measures. Performance reviews will now include guest satisfaction scores specifically measuring inclusive treatment, Michael announced. Julian's business acumen kicked in. "What about financial incentives for positive behavior?" "Staff bonuses will be tied to diversity metrics," Michael replied. "Discriminatory behavior costs money. Inclusive behavior earns rewards." The financial incentives aligned employee interests with guest dignity, making inclusion profitable and discrimination expensive. 3:46 p.m. Industry leadership established. Dr. Washington, Michael said formally. Would Washington Hospitality Group be willing to share these reforms with other luxury resorts? Amara's medical conference leadership experience emerged. "We'll create an industry consortium for hospitality inclusion, open source best practices." The reforms at Azure Bay would become templates for transforming an entire industry's approach to discrimination. Julian added, "We'll publish annual reports on progress across all our properties. Full transparency on successes and failures." 3:48 p.m. Community impact expands. Local news vans were arriving in the resort parking lot. The incident had become a major story about accountability in luxury hospitality. Zoe's live stream has spawned dozens of reaction videos across TikTok and YouTube. Azure Bay accountability was trending in 12 countries. "This story is becoming a case study," Mrs. Crawford observed. "Business schools will teach this for decades." The educational impact would multiply the reform's influence far beyond one resort or even one industry. 3:50 p.m. Long-term transformation initiated. "We're establishing a resident diversity board," Michael announced. "Guest representatives will review all policies and have veto power over discriminatory practices." The community oversight ensured that reforms wouldn't be quietly abandoned after media attention faded. "Quarterly public forums will address any bias concerns," Michael continued. "Complete transparency in our progress." Amara smiled with satisfaction. "Intellectual victory over revenge, systematic change over individual punishment." 3:52 p.m. The legacy crystallizes. Tyler's termination had triggered transformation across Azure Bay's entire operation. His racist assumptions became catalysts for industry-wide reform. Rachel's suspension sparked comprehensive management training revisions. Her corporate bias exposed systemic problems requiring systematic solutions. "This is bigger than one incident," Julian reflected. "This is about changing how an entire industry treats people of color." The real-life stories of discrimination were becoming touching stories of triumph through dignity and strategic action. 3:54 p.m. Model for change established. Other Washington Hospitality Group properties will implement identical reforms within 60 days, Amara announced. Michael nodded eagerly. "We'll become the gold standard for inclusive luxury hospitality." The Azure Bay incident would transform 23 properties across 3 states, affecting thousands of employees and hundreds of thousands of guests annually. Mrs. Crawford raised her cocktail in tribute. "To quiet power, defeating loud ignorance." Timestamp, 3:56 p.m. The transformation was irreversible. 6 months later, the ripple effects Dr. Amara Washington stood before 800 hospitality executives at the International Tourism Conference in Las Vegas. Her keynote address, "Dignity as Business Strategy," had become the most requested presentation in industry history. "The Azure Bay incident taught us that discrimination isn't just morally wrong," she told the packed auditorium. "It's economically devastating." The numbers were staggering. Tyler's 30 minutes of racism had cost the hospitality industry $47 million in legal settlements as similar cases emerged nationwide. But the reforms had generated $127 million in new bookings from diverse travelers seeking inclusive luxury experiences. The personal transformation Julian's construction company had been flooded with requests from hotels wanting to implement accessibility and inclusion retrofits. Washington Hospitality Group had grown from 23 properties to 31, becoming the fastest-growing luxury chain in America. Their marriage had strengthened through shared purpose. The discrimination they'd faced together had forged them into industry leaders fighting for systematic change. "We turned our worst day into the catalyst for our greatest impact," Julian reflected during a recent interview with Black Enterprise magazine. The digital legacy lives on Zoe Kim's live stream had accumulated 47 million views across all platforms. Her footage was being used in business schools, law schools, and diversity training programs worldwide. She'd parlayed the viral moment into a successful career as a social justice documentarian, with Netflix funding her series Accountability in Real Time. Mrs. Crawford had become an unlikely influencer at age 73, using her platform to spotlight discrimination and celebrate businesses implementing inclusive practices. The industry transformation. The Azure Bay model has been adopted by 847 hospitality businesses across 23 countries. Anonymous reporting apps had documented 12,400 discrimination incidents, with 89% resolved through education rather than termination. Tyler Brooks had become a cautionary tale taught in every hospitality management program. His LinkedIn profile remained permanently marked with employment gaps that no amount of explanation could fill. Rachel Martinez had completed 200 hours of bias training and now worked as a diversity consultant, using her failure to prevent others from making similar mistakes. The continuing fight. These real-life stories of triumph over discrimination continued inspiring Black stories of resilience and strategic action. Every month brought new cases of quiet dignity defeating loud ignorance. The touching stories emerging from Azure Bay's transformation proved that systematic change was possible when people demanded accountability rather than accepting discrimination as inevitable. Your voice matters in this movement. Discrimination in hospitality affects millions of travelers annually. These aren't just black stories or touching stories about individual encounters. They're real-life stories that shape entire industries. Have you experienced bias while traveling? At hotels, restaurants, or tourist attractions? Your story matters. Every experience shared helps create the evidence needed for systematic change. The comment section below is your platform. Share your experiences with discrimination in travel and hospitality. Document the bias you've witnessed. Celebrate the businesses that treat all customers with dignity. Hit that subscribe button to join Black Voices Uncut, our community subscribers fighting for equal treatment in every industry. Ring the notification bell because every week we share new stories of quiet strength defeating institutional bias. Share this video to protect future travelers. Every share helps someone realize they deserve respect wherever they go. Together, we're not just telling touching stories, we're rewriting the rules of an entire industry. The transformation continues.